Simon Didn't Say, by Joy M. Copeland, is a contemporary novel with overtones of a mystery. It's a young attorney who relocates from a high-powered New York firm to a non-profit philanthropic organization in Washington, D.C. A grantee's curious record sets the protagonist in motion as she courses through a series of characters involving murder, mystery, homelessness, family, relationships, race, and parenting. The author, Joy M. Copeland, is a native of Harlem, New York, and currently resides in Virginia. She is the author of several biographies. What Simon Didn't Say is her first novel.
There's so many characters here that you could develop into a story of their own, you know, but I thought that she was leaving I guess an avenue to a part two, or develop another character. You know, maybe grandma and her relationship with Simon, you know, or something.
Real story.
I want to know what happened when she what happened after he opened up the door. Jelani came and apologized. What are we going to do with that?
Yes, I thought it was a good read. You could get through pretty quickly, and it's on and on. But I think as long as it was, the characters were not really well developed. And I like you said, it was interesting the titles. Once I figured it out, it's like each chapter title gave you some insight what was going to happen. But I thought it was interesting. At the end, I said, I guess this was meant to be supernatural or a mystery, without really tying up the ends. But I thought it was interesting.
Oddly, I thought Simon was real. She asked me, she said, did you get that, you know, he was a spirit? And I said, who? Simon. I said, no, I didn't. And I started going back into the book to find out where the signals were that, you know, made him, you know, spiritual and not the solid person. You know, no, flesh and bone person that I had in my mind.
Once I finally got into it, which was probably, I don't know, third through the book, then it became a page turner. The other thing that I liked was the insight into the homeless population and really making you think about the homeless population. I liked her interaction with them. And I just liked that she used that a lot in the book. I really enjoyed that part of it.
I also like mysteries, and it took me a while to kind of get into it. But then once I got into it, it was like, you know, I had to. I even took the train in today because I haven't finished it. And I'm on the train, I almost missed my stop. I do all my reading on the subway train. So I was definitely engrossed and pulled in. And I enjoyed it. It's not, I didn't think it was anything deep, it's not something that you have to spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out the meaning behind it. It was a light, enjoyable read, whodunit, and I appreciate it.
First-time writers, they do. They write too much, they fall in love with their words, and they hold on to them dear like they're children. Yeah. And so, they have to learn to let them go, and usually your editor does it for you. And obviously, this book was not edited. It matters. Matter of fact, it may have been edited because we don't know what else was in there. We have, in the very beginning of the book, we have a context. She is very good in that first chapter in giving you clues so you know where it is, the time it is, by the way in which she talks about the place, so you know it's in DC. She talks about her clothes, the dress, you know it's contemporary. You know her age. And you know sort of how she got where she is. So she puts it in context without telling you. Some people put the context in a prologue. She didn't. She put that right in the first chapter. And with her use of words, Girl is very good with words. Yeah, she did a good job. Yeah, she does. She knows how to formulate ideas and then put the words to the ideas. So let's start with the characters.
I didn't understand why he didn't suspect or know, like the building that's on his property of his whatever. Okay, so there were a lot of things around that, but which I felt, there were those kinds of gaps. But at the end, I felt like he had no clue that the woman who went off somewhere, I guess she got lost, she ran away. So you never figure out what happens to Tyreek's mother. But basically, that's why people kind of went off. But I thought he didn't know, but I didn't know why he didn't know.
If you're so intense on a particular project, it's like an obsession. He wouldn't see it because it would never even enter his mind. Think about it.
He had the shelter and his political
But
aspirations.
she made it clear that it was almost an obsession. The shelter was 24 hours in his life, even when he was off.
And I think he was also very trusting of his right-hand person, Tariq or whatever. He also, when he went to the prison to visit the young man, I think he was truly shocked that was what helped him to understand that these things were going on around him, and he was totally unaware, and the true character of this young man that he didn't realize. So, although it seemed pretty stupid of him not to know anything.
But he had a relationship with his mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and they go way back.
Yes.
She rescued him when he was down. He lived with him for a while. So to me, it would be easy for him to be very trusting and to give her carte blanche of whatever she wanted to do, because they go way back.
They never had a direct dialogue. They did describe the history of the relationship, even to the point where the cops are there. You never. And then she disappeared. Then they said she went away. But there wasn't a direct dialogue.
With that character of Simon, the first thing that hit my mind was Simple Simon. The idea of, that poem, Simple Simon. And so it was almost like he keeps on popping up. And I thought that Simon was her great-grandfather coming back, giving, like a reincarnation of like some of those spirits that come back to you at different times and give you some, wisdom, things like that.
Another thing that I didn't feel comfortable with was when I stepped back, I felt that it was kind of very negative on immigrants, personally. And I felt that, Americans are going to really eat on this. Here's the boy, even though he's born in the United States, he goes back and he makes these connections. So I felt that it was, so I didn't like that particular part of the storyline.
My struggle, I think, with the novel was that I didn't feel that character was developed. I mean, I knew, so generally,
You knew a lot about
him, but I really didn't feel I knew him. And I thought that was the problem with the immigration part of it, the immigrants. I thought the problem, I think that it's part of the function of the length of the novel. She didn't, I don't think she used it as efficiently as she could have in terms of, really knowing what the deal was with Tariq. She says he leaves. He goes to Ethiopia, he comes back. I don't know, I just thought it was extremely shallow, that part of the book. And that is a lack of depth with Jahi and many of the other characters. And I think that is a problem, that did create the stereotype. And I thought it also made the plot less plausible to me, because she didn't develop that.
She went into great detail about Zoe's mother, and there were some characters where she just was
Digged deep.
really, and then the others just on the
Shallow.
surface.
I thought that Jahi was not as developed as all that. He doesn't show up to say anything. Whereas you know at the beginning, he is a character who has something to say, even if it's a banter back
In
and
the
forth.
first chapter.
Right, yes, okay.
Zoe is, I think that they've said a lot about Jahai. You know, he's in the movies with her and he has this outburst with his kids. She already knows he has a temper. You know, they end up actually being friends with benefits. You know, if it wasn't all this stuff going on at the foundation, I mean, they were intimate with one another, you know, and I think that she was a little shocked and disappointed as she was finding out things that were going on at the shelter that, you know, that she was holding him responsible for. You know, I don't think she realized that he didn't have something to do with it. I think she really did believe he was involved in it, and that's, you know.
Well, again, his entire absence doesn't give him any credibility at all. So everything that you said has happened before that moment. That character, there's a lot going on with him prior to being in the country with his Marine buddies. After those Marine buddies, the only other thing you get is he and Sister T together when the ambulance and the fire people come and the police. Then he's at the prison and he finds out that this had happened and then he shows up at the end. So all I'm saying is that yes, there's a lot that goes on right here, but there's nothing going on out here.
And you just assume.
Well, I am just making a
Okay. A character that I thought was fantastic was Jazz.
Oh, yes.
Was Jazz real? She was developed in such a real fashion.
He has kind of a strange personality because the first time she met him and he fell, he got angry at her. And why? This is, just get up and wipe yourself off and keep it moving. So you can tell that his personality was almost like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. At some point he's suave and sophisticated, next time he's mad and he's stomping off. So again, but they portrayed him as being extremely intelligent. There's no way.
We could see who he was, and he was above, he had to come to this, what do you call it, that fundraiser or whatever. Right. So, his whole personality, he was he was he.
He is exactly like all of us have met these guys. What was his real name? Something old. That's right. And I think she did that.
She did a good job.
And a lot of some brothers, they get, they change their names and stuff, and they got the dreadlocks, and then and he's strong and good looking, and then all of a sudden he's thrust into an opening where he's supposedly a leader, and he's really not ready to be a leader. So maybe his character is undeveloped, but perhaps she did it purposefully.
Yes.
A lot of women, a lot of black women at that age, you meet these kinds of guys, right? And you're impressed, but there's no substance.
Exactly.
Right? Everybody say yes.
They don't say I don't
Okay,
get it.
all right. No, working here,
Yes. Roberta brought something to my mind. When you talk about management style, we haven't talked about the foundation.
Yeah, they were
Now, the
nice.
foundation, that was run by a board, many of whom were just there to have their little meal or collect a little salary or whatever. They really did not focus or examine what was going on. And even in terms of what was going on within the structure of the organization, no one seemed, some people were aware, but you didn't ask questions. And if you asked questions, you were removed.
And that happened very early in the book.
Yeah. So in a sense, you have poor management on both ends.
Okay.
We were talking about Zoe and her man, that man, but what about Zoe and Elliot? She again picked a shallow man, so this seems to be her pattern. That's what she goes with, is You know, men who don't know what they want, don't know who they are.
Unavailable.
Yeah, unavailable. So that's her pattern.
Yeah.
Unavailable and inaccessible.
Yes.
And so Elliot, she dumped him early on, and then when he came back, then why is he here? And who is he? And everybody's looking at him as a flip, and she said, it's hard for her to see that. Yes, Elena.
Well, I was going to say, when you talk about Zoe and these relationships, so she couldn't even speak to the child's grandmother because she is in a rage. That Elliot shows up at his parents' house. Okay.
And the puppy.
You know, and it was just
Adamant.
But that overreaction to me had everything to do with not having gotten over Elliot and not having found someone to fill in that space for her. So,
When you think about her, and to speak, and how well she does, but she's childlike, she's very impulsive.
yes.
I wanted to build on what Lana was saying. I thought that there's a commonality of that tension of in all of the books. It's similar tension in terms of American marriage. It's a similar tension to love, love in another self. It's a similar tension in the hate you give. It's like a real part of our lives, or our younger generation, or whatever, is the personal development, relational development, and career development, and challenges. And I was like amazed. I mean, I think that was something that really shocked me about, or really stood out about the, that challenge of who am I and how am I going to be happy, and who I can find to be happy with, and do I have to have, and what do they have to be, and I think it's amazing that it's in all of these books.
Well, this black and white issue, I think, was not developed. The grandmother talks about being, I think one of the men she chose was dark, or she had. Yeah. But she ended up with a lighter skinned man. There was an issue of black and white, and I wanted that to be, of color, whatever you want to call it. So I was looking for that to be kind of developed. There's a sentence that says that Zoe, for the most part, only dated white men.
Yeah.
So I was just curious about that particular.
But she also didn't feel that she could be her black womanhood with these white men either. And that was one thing that she was able to probably articulate a little bit more with, say, someone like Johnny.
They're at the end of the book. These are the relationships. So we have Gabe the Spirit, also Simon. We have Jahi standing outside. We have Dylan inside. We have Zoe, who has voiced her misgivings about, voicing her misgivings about what it means after this revelation of the color thing, right? And then Dylan walks in, but she says she has no one, everything is right except one thing. That one thing is, how could she tell Dylan, maybe later, but it would be a Jahi type she could say it to immediately, because in her mind he could understand her. But it also points up to me, while Jahi is kind of like the Gabe, but not really, even though he's gotten all dreadlocks are cut, he's in a suit, he's in a shirt, he is looking a little bit more corporate standing out there and looking really fine, and he comes in to say, I'm sorry. Jahi, she's, to me, trying to parallel the Gabe and the Francis with the I am sorry. I look at that and I say to myself, but Zoe herself is not developed enough internally, introspectively, to understand that that window she had of Jahi in that movie is a window. And that getting cleaned up, superficial, is just superficial. And that Dylan, who is in there doing everything he can, doing everything he can to say, this is a woman I really love and I have demonstrated it. She has given that back, but she's thinking, there's something left out of this. And that is, who am I as a black woman? It is a question. It is that same question that the grandmother, who could not say that she could go off with her dark-skinned love, the man she really loved. She wanted. He knew it, but he came back. So I love the idea that Jahi simply comes in to say he's sorry. The question is whether Zoe ever gets to be mature enough to understand to just say thank you and leave it.
She, rightfully and respectfully so, she has hesitations because no one's perfect, and no matter how much you investigate someone, you might not necessarily know everything about them, but you have to be willing to take the risk. And so I experienced her hesitation of, okay, a risk kind of thing. The parallel about, Calvin and Gabe, it's there, and I would hope that the character, Sorry? Calvin is the husband. Was Frances' husband, and Gabe was the one. Was her real great grandfather, her grandfather. So that parallel there, I see it with Jahi and Dylan. However, I also see that she has a choice to make, and she's definitely making that choice carefully on her own basis, based on the information she's gathered.
I just, there's so many parallels to the novel The Wedding by Dorothy West. It reminded me of that. Like, who does she choose between these, he's at the door. Is her heart with him, or is the man that's cooking for her grandmother, And it reminded me so much of that novel, The Wedding, and the race, having to deal with the racial secrets that are in the family, and I don't know.
We spent a lot of time on characters. So, but that obviously was where we took it. So that's fine. But that one last piece was context, characters, and storyline. And we're beginning to get into that, is where did this story start, move through, and where did it end? We started a bit at the beginning talking about the end. But now we've gone through the book and we're at the end. And so how do you feel that storyline carried throughout the book?
I think they alluded to some issues around the black, white, and color issue. She was not good friends with Lena. The parents tried to put them together,
I know.
And it was forceful. But I always thought, was that because Lena was darker than she was, even though she had all that white furniture?
So Ray is the linchpin in a way to get what is the motive of the story moving, and for her to find herself in these odd places without really thinking about anything. But it's also Tariq who, as you remember, says, but we followed him to the B-boy bar. So he had a thing against gay men, which is why killing Ray was not a problem for him. Now, I don't know what his mother's motivation was, but that was the person to whom Ray called to say, you need to take care of this. And which is why by the time she gets there, they decided to take care of him so that there wouldn't be this thing that keeps going on. So it is because he's gay, that's Tariq. It is because he is busy, they're busy embezzling money. That is Ray.
That was his idea, right?
Right. So that is where that sort of thing comes in.
One thing I will give her credit for is that she loved her child enough. I think that was, but she was, but loved her almost in spite of everything and wanted to control everything else around her. And when she felt like she was losing control, then she would lash out at people who actually were trying to be supportive.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Rosa, and I'm the moderator.
What's the book?
I'm the moderator of the book club. Okay, my name is Clara Villarosa, and I was the moderator of this book for the book club. What Simon didn't say. You can edit that. What Simon didn't say by Joy Copeland.
Bum, 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 bum.